Michelle Caruana, creator of Play Cafe Academy, and in today's video, I'm going to expand a little bit on the video that I posted a few months ago about entering this or any business with an exit strategy and why it's so important. And I'm also going to give you some personal perspectives because I obviously went through this recently. So this is going to be very similar to that video, but I am going to expand on the concepts a little bit, especially because I know a lot of business owners, unfortunately, right now are either looking to sell or close. So I want to share my personal tips and lessons. But first, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps so much. And if you enjoy my content, subscribe to my channel. I put out a new video every single week. All right, so as I mentioned in the video where I talked about exit strategy, I'm going to link that video in the comments because it's going to talk about it much more in depth. But there are basically 4 different ways that your business can come to an end. Number 1, you can operate it for 20 plus years and then hand it down to your kids, so you're keeping it in the family. Number 2, you can sell to a friendly buyer. Number 3, you can just simply close your doors at the end of the lease, sell your equipment, no harm, no foul, just decide, I don't want to continue operating this, nor do I want to sell it, or you're not able to find a buyer, whatever the case may be. And then finally, number 4, you can liquidate or declare bankruptcy or break your lease. That's obviously worst case scenario. We never want to do that. We never want to, break our financial obligations or anything like that. And that is really one of the scariest parts of entering that business, is understanding that number 4 is a potential scenario. So I like to mention it, even though it's obviously worst case. Now, a lot of people, when they start this business, they don't really think about having an exit strategy. It's kind of like talking about divorce before you even get married. But in this case, it is so essential. And I think going into this business, knowing which of these 4 scenarios is ideal for you is so important. Now, I always recommend that you go into this business or any business with the intention, or at least having a plan to sell, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Even though, let's say today, you really envision running your business for 20 plus years and handing it down to your kids or keeping it in the family in some way, even if you feel like that, the business is going to have to change hands at some point, whether it be to a family member or somebody else. However, there is the possibility that you could decide, a couple years down the road that this business isn't for you, that you want to move, that you want to change direction, that you want to open a new business. So it's very hard to decide to sell a business when you're several years into the game. I highly recommend you go into this business taking these tips that I'm going to give you and really just prepare for a sale, because it takes a ton of time, a ton of effort, and it's much easier to just start doing these things from the beginning than it is to backtrack and have to, come up with your financial records and your financial reports from years back. It's much easier to just keep current on them. So I'm going to give you some tips that I've personally learned and that I know other indoor playground owners have learned when it's been time to sell or close up shop or whatever the case may be. So number 1, and again, this is assuming that you're going to be going into this business with the intention to someday sell, because we never know what's going to happen. I mentioned moving, there could be sickness, there could be a death in the family, all different things could happen. And I promise you, if you try to just list your business and sell it, not only is it going to be very difficult to sell, but if you don't follow these tips, you're also going to end up taking a much lower price than you probably could command if you did follow these tips. And again, this is based on my personal experience. So number 1, get help with bookkeeping right away. Do not leave this task to a DIY type of thing. I did this and I made so many mistakes. There were taxes that I forgot to file and pay. There were financial reports that when it came time to list my business and sell it, I didn't have. I had to reverse engineer them, and some data was lost. Some data was not wholly available. I didn't take great records. I didn't keep great records. And as a result, I think it was a lot more difficult to sell my business. And I do think that I wasn't able to get as high of a price for it as I possibly could have. I tried to DIY it. I do not recommend that. I would highly recommend hiring a bookkeeper as soon as humanly possible, or at least educating yourself in whatever accounting software you're using, whether it be QuickBooks or FreshBooks or anything like that. Make sure you're keeping up to date, very rigid, very specific financial reports so that you don't have to reverse engineer it later. I promise you will not regret doing this. And then number 2, this is another accounting one, but keep an up-to-date value of your assets and your business. So your accountant or your bookkeeper, whoever you hire to do this aspect of your business, they'll explain to you that some of your assets depreciate, some of them don't appreciate. A good example of a depreciable asset is like your kitchen equipment, right? You're not going to be able to get the same price 5 years down the road after 5 years of use as you would if it was brand new. So I really like to make sure my accountant is keeping track of this depreciation schedule. And I always know exactly how much my assets are worth. Because again, if I wanted to list my business at the drop of a hat, you're going to need to know that because it's going to go into the valuation of your entire business. Because if somebody buys your business, they want to know exactly how much everything is worth right now, not how much you paid for everything. So make sure you have a list of your depreciable assets and make sure you know what the depreciation schedule is and keep it up to date so that you are ready to list at any time. It's going to help you sleep much better at night. This one is probably the most important, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but keep specific documentation in order to continue your operations without a hitch in the event of a sale. So I teach this a lot in Play Cafe Academy, but document every single system. Take videos recording how you do every single task, how you train employees, how you place orders, how you clean, how you schedule your birthday parties, how you speak to customers, what your sales process is, how you update your website, how you publish events, how you send invoices. Every single task in your business should be documented and video recorded so that if you needed to turn your business over into someone else's hands, they would be able to pick it up and say, okay, this is what I need to make sure gets done Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And they're able to consume all of this content and get a really good idea of exactly how to make your business run. Because again, this isn't just about selling a business. You could also, always get hit by the hypothetical milk truck. Again, it's not something that we want to think about if something happens to us or a business partner, but it can absolutely happen. And unfortunately, I have seen it happen, not the actual milk truck thing, but somebody gets sick, something happens to someone's child, and they just have to cease operations. And 9 times out of 10, that business will just close or they'll sell it at a bottom bargain price because the new owner is going to have to do everything from scratch because they didn't do that documentation. So the hardest businesses to sell are the ones where the owner does everything and where all of the knowledge and know-how and execution of the tasks live in the owner's head. When you meet with a broker or whoever is going to list your business and value your business, whether, again, that's a broker or bank, whatever the case may be, they're going to want to know, the first question they're going to ask is, how turnkey is your business? They might ask if it's profitable first, but the second question they'll probably ask, the question that they definitely pose to me is, how turnkey is your business? How easily could somebody step into your role and manage your team and keep your business operating? Again, 9 times out of 10, the answer is it is not turnkey at all, especially for indoor playground businesses, because a lot of us are just so passionate about our business that we want to do everything. And we always think, nothing's going to happen to me. I'll document it later, or, I'll have a manager do it, something like that. But I promise you, this is something that you should prioritize, whether you want to sell your business or not. Because again, this is something that's much easier to do from the beginning. It's much easier to document your processes over time than it is to all of a sudden decide to list your business and have to go through and document every single thing all at once. So I promise you it's going to be much easier if you just start now or start right when you open your business, so that every single time there's a new task, you just add it to the list and document it, or you can update it, and you're not super overwhelmed doing it all at once. And this is not only going to make it much more likely that your business is going to actually sell, but again, you will be able to command an even higher price for it. And again, your broker is going to love you because it's much easier to sell a turnkey business. That's one of the reasons that franchises and franchise locations are so easy to sell in like the business broker world, because their processes are meticulously documented by the parent company. It's very difficult to sell like a mom and pop type business. So this is something that I want you to, if you just take away one thing from this video, start documenting your processes. Again, this is something I teach in very specific detail in Play Cafe Academy and Playmaker Society, because it is so important. And this was a mistake I made. I started way too late and it was very overwhelming. And I wasted thousands of hours training employees in person when I could have just documented my processes, recorded them, and then had them watch the videos. And Again, this is something that you could do for free. I recorded all of my videos just on my iPhone and I organized them into task category in Google Drive. So you can do this absolutely free, and I highly recommend that you do. All right, the next thing I want to mention is create a plan to pay off debt and create an owner compensation plan. So, as I mentioned, your accountant or your broker is going to want to know if your business is profitable before you list it. So, make sure they know that, yes, I have loans. This is the plan to pay them off. Show that you are paying them off and show that you are paying yourself. I highly recommend putting yourself either on the payroll or, again, creating an owner compensation plan to show that this person, whoever is going to be taking over your business, whether it's a family member or whether you're selling the business to a friendly buyer, they want to know exactly what it's going to look like, what they're going to be able to take home, and that's going to help them evaluate if it's a purchase they want to make. The next tip I have is to really be agile, right? We're in the midst of COVID. I think the last video I recorded was before the whole COVID-19 crisis. So make sure you have contingency plans in place. So regardless of which scenario you end up with, regardless of how consumer trends change, or regardless of, if there's a pandemic or another shutdown, make sure you have contingency plans and let the new buyers know, how you can pivot. If plan A goes wrong, what is plan B? Make sure you know what your multiple revenue streams are and make sure you have multiple revenue streams. I'll post another link in the description of this video where I talk about our 6 main income streams. And that represents probably 90% of our business, but we do have several other even smaller income streams. So owners are going to want to see that, because if open play ceases to be a revenue stream, like we saw during the COVID-19 crisis, they want to know exactly how they can make an income, because this whole pandemic thing could go on for much longer or it could happen again. So make sure if one income stream fails, let them know how they can pick up that slack with other income streams like coffee sales, like retail sales, like virtual classes, things like that. Have contingency plans and have them fully documented. The next and final tip I want to give is to make sure you have a transition plan. So, in addition to documenting all of your processes, you should also kind of timeline what exactly it would look like to transition your business. So, if it is very turnkey, this transition process will be very short. And prospective owners just want to know, okay, am I going to be able to be independent in running this business in a month, in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years? A lot of mom and pop type businesses, especially indoor playground type businesses, kind of fail to do this transition plan, and they just kind of rely on letting the new owners guess. But being really specific, letting them know exactly what to expect, is, again, not only going to make it a lot easier to sell your business, but you're going to be able to get a higher price for it because you are so explicit. And I would also recommend, again, I talked about this in the exit strategy video, appoint a key employee who is in charge of this transition plan. Let them know that there is someone still in the business that you're stepping away from, that can help them, that can show them the ropes, that can help them not only consume all of the content that you've documented, but also execute it and put it into place. It's very common for when mom and pop type businesses to close. It's very easy. It's very common for all of the staff to kind of quit and go with them, whether they were family members or friends or anything like that. But keeping at least one person, maybe it's a manager or maybe it's just a key or point employee, keeping at least one person on staff and then allowing the new owner to hire a new staff is going to really help with the transition, and again, help make sure that you can sell your business. Again, one of the mistakes that I made was all of my team kind of left with me and there was really no point person. The entire burden was on me. So yeah, that was definitely a mistake that I made. Don't leave the burden all on you. So if you're looking to step away from the business, or if you're selling or just creating a selling or a transition plan just in case, just assume that you're not going to be able to be the one who is doing the transition. So make sure you have a point person and make sure that stays up to date. So if you have new team members or if that role gets replaced, make sure you update that transition plan and make sure the employee is aware of it. Make sure they know they are the point person and make sure they are educated on that, so that need be, if you get hit by that hypothetical milk truck and they need to go ahead and execute that transition plan without you, they are able to. Now, I wanted to leave you guys with a couple extra tips that were based on my own, again, personal experience. So one thing that happened to us that was regrettable, it's sucked, there's no other way to say it, it really sucked, is we ended up taking a payment plan from the people who purchased one of our locations. And unfortunately, COVID happened and all that stuff, and they were forced to close. And the payment plan was not even close to paid up yet. I don't even think they had started the payment plan. So even though we had a contract and an agreed upon price, they ended up breaking and dissolving their lease. We actually gave them the equipment. They came and picked it up. They put it in their space. They used it for like over a year, I think. And that payment plan hadn't yet kicked in yet. And part of the reason why we did that payment plan, they had made like an initial payment, but they didn't pay for any of the equipment or anything like that up front. So unfortunately, we lost all of that. We were able to, go pick the things up if we needed them, but we never saw a dime from them for the marketing contract that we had in place. So we were actually going to stay on and continue doing their website and their marketing. We were never able to collect a payment for that. We were never able to collect any of the payments for the equipment or any of those assets or anything like that. So if you can, try and get payment upfront. If they need financing, put that burden on them. Don't put it on you, because even if you have a contract in place, even if you seem like everything is ironclad, if they end up closing for whatever reason, again, there's pandemics, there's all sorts of things that we can't control, even with the best laid plans. So you're putting yourself at risk and putting yourself again at risk for not being able to actually collect on that payment or at least the full amount. So put the financing burden on them, force them to get a loan or something like that, and try and take the payment upfront if you're able to really minimize your risk when you sell your business. And the last thing I wanted to mention, this is another kind of mistake that I made, is make sure you have a transition plan for customers. So if you do sell or close your business, make sure you communicate. Make sure you're not that business owner who just ducks away in the middle of the night, unless of course something happens to you, but let them know what's going to change, who the new ownership will be. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves to your customers a little bit and let them know what, if anything, is going to change. So will their prices change? Will their model change? Will their location be changing? Will the staff be changing? Will the day-to-day operations be changing? Anything like that. And some of that stuff you might not know before the business actually changes hands. But in my opinion, having that relationship and being as transparent as possible with your customers will help the new owner to really have the most success in your business, because this is your baby, you built it. And while you have no obligation to really make sure that the new owners have success in your business, you're going to feel invested in it and you want them to be successful, right? You want them to continue operating your business as successfully as you did. So just being transparent with your customers will really help not only you leave off on a good foot in case you are, looking to open a new business or something like that, or if you're staying in the community, not only will it help you leave on the right foot, but it's also going to set the new owner up for success. It's very disheartening when you're a loyal customer of a business to find out about a major change like this overnight and not having any plan, not having any information in regards to what is going to change. So I would try to work with the new owners as best as possible on educating them about what will change. Again, especially if there's going to be a major change like staff turnover or if they're changing a new location. So our business actually moved locations when we sold, and I didn't do a great job of communicating that. And people had a ton of questions. They wanted to know if they could get refunds. They wanted to know if everything would be valid at the new location. And I just didn't have the answers for them. And that made me look unprepared as a business owner. And I think it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So I wish I would have gathered more information from the new owners. And I wish I would have had like a prepared statement and transition plan, not only for the new owners, but also for customers. And the last thing I wanted to leave you with is, no matter what happens, whether it's a location change or not, whether you're closing your business or not, people customers just tend to be a little bit unreasonable with their expectations, right? They want refunds off of from gift cards that they purchased years ago. They want refunds on things that you're not able to give refunds on, things that they should have redeemed a long time ago. So while I highly recommend being as generous as possible with your customers when it comes to refunds or giving them a chance to use up their passes or gift cards, also don't let it bankrupt you. While I do think ethically you need to provide refunds as much as possible for things that you are not able to honor, if someone comes with you again with a gift card that they purchased a year or two ago and expects a full refund, I would just, keep in mind that Nobody cares about your business as much as you do. Nobody put in the blood, sweat, and tears as much as you do. They're just looking for a handout. Of course, honor the reasonable requests, but just know that people are going to come out of the woodwork and expect unreasonable things from you. Just keep your head high, do what you can, come up with a reasonable plan with the new owner or with your team if you're closing your doors or breaking your lease or anything like that. But be reasonable, but just know that no matter what happens, it will pass. um, Even if people are angry or confused or upset, it will pass. Your life will be able to go on if you close or sell a business. I promise you, it gets better. And even if the new owners or the new business goes awry, again, I promise it's something that will pass. And, for me, even though the new business ended up closing due to COVID, while I did learn a lot of lessons along the way, I don't have any regrets, and I feel pretty comfortable in my decisions and in the experience that I can now carry on to next businesses and how I'm able to teach my Play Cafe Academy members and Playmaker Society members from my experience so that they can avoid the few mistakes that I did absolutely make. All right, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And again, I linked some other videos and resources in the description of this video, so feel free to go check them out. And I will be back with next week's video, and I will see you guys then. Have a great day.